Today on the Curve Ahead podcast, we are interviewing Dr. Jennifer Anderson, who is our Assistant Executive Director of our Intermediate Unit 8, and someone who, as soon as I got here, was very into the idea of integrating AI in the things we do and helping the people not only in RIU, but all of our districts, helping them integrate it and get more comfortable with AI as well. So today we are going to have a lovely discussion about what it's like to be in leadership in education today in the world of AI. So Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Oh my goodness. So this whole podcast thing is all about having conversations around AI. Before we get into AI at all, this is really funny. Everyone on this show knows I use AI to help me prepare for everything, right? And you and I actually realized something funny when we were sitting down to talk to this. So one of the questions that we came up with was, before we get to AI at all, walk us through your career path and what shaped how you think about education and organizations before you arrived at the IU8. And I actually learned something interesting.
Yes. So when we first started talking, you were like, what about before? And I was like, there really wasn't a before. And then I thought, no, wait a minute, there was actually a before, because I've been here for my entire career. I've been here for 24 years.
Which is interesting, right?
Yes.
Started here.
Yes, I did start here. But we talked about, prior to that, I actually, whenever I got out of college, my mom was like, and you need to get to work. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was like, she handed me a newspaper and it was like, start circling. And so I circled, and there was a company actually down here in Altoona, because I live up the mountain, right? Everybody says up the mountain.
Gotcha.
So I live up the mountain in the country, and I had to come down into Altoona, and I had actually worked for a company that sold AT&T landlines on the West Coast.
Talk about a throwback.
Right?
Landlines.
Landlines.
I love that.
Landline packages, right? Hold for your third-party verifier to purchase this package, and then you would, hold your breath and wait, and please make sure it goes through and they don't hang up when you transfer them over to the third party. But that's actually where I got my start in teaching. I was out on the floor. I was selling these, packages until I could get my teaching job. And I was discovered, they pulled me off the floor and they were like, do you have an education background? I sure do. K-12, special education. And they were like, we need a trainer. And so, long story short, sent me off into Ohio for a week. I came back, and that was my first teaching gig. I was teaching high schoolers to, individuals that were retired that right. just wanted something to do. I had people that was their primary job, and so it was awesome. I only did it for 5 months, and then got an interview here, and here I am.
I mean, that was just. When we sat down and talked, I was like, oh, you've been here the whole time.
I have.
You've been here the whole time.
Yeah. So when I first started here, I started out as a long-term sub for a few months. And then I did some work in life skills. I was in a multi-disability supports classroom. I did a little bit of time at the Crescent Secure Treatment Unit, which is no longer in operation. It was taken over by the state. But to being an autistic support teacher, I was a preschool teacher. Then I went back for supervision, my master's, all of those things. Became a supervisor, became a consultant, assistant director, and then here I am.
Boom.
Yeah.
That wild journey.
It is.
Wild journey.
It was an amazing journey.
Yeah. And here you are.
People.
Here you are. You are the assistant executive director now of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Based on that, what's that like? I mean, you've had supervisory roles before, but from what I gleaned from our conversations, they've all been attached to, special education, which was your, specialty. So now you're in the whole I don't, to me, as again, a newbie, an outsider, being assistant executive director of the whole thing, I feel like must be quite a shift.
Yes, it definitely is. The responsibility to individuals, to people, to students, to families has significantly shifted.
Yeah.
From the beginning of my time here to now. And I will say it's wider, right?
Yeah.
The circumference has certainly gotten wider.
Yeah.
And that responsibility to our school districts now, it's just a different frame of mind, some different lenses that you need to be able to look through. There's different lenses then that you have to invite, or really should invite into the conversation, to think more broadly, more regionally, more about our ecosystem. What does it mean for the intermediate unit if X happens? What does that mean for, or how can we better support our school districts with whatever that initiative is, whatever that thought is, and then how can we connect those? I always talk about, learned this through a leadership conference that I'd been to, or a leadership seminar, is that you find the dots and then you collect the dots and then you connect the dots.
Ooh, I like that.
And so I always talk about, and I'll even use that now whenever I talk with individuals, I'll say we need to collect the dots and then begin to connect them in ways that maybe we've never connected them before. And that's where magic happens. And I
love
think
that.
AI has a piece in that.
And so now we have the career piece now. So in your career, was there a moment where something changed how you had worked? You know, not just what you worked on, but like how your work happened and that you had to adapt in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so I can think of really 2 times that has happened. And it's been in the transitional period of going from a teacher to supervision, right? Or teacher to consultation. And so there's a shift in the way that you think. And again, it goes back to that expansion of, it's not just me anymore, or me and my supervisor. I am now responsible for not only student learning, family learning, but now as a supervisor, I'm responsible for teachers learning, other leaders learning, and engaging in those really meaningful conversations where there are, decisions, high stakes decisions that need to be made. And so, it's certainly a shift in the way that you think. It's a shift in the way that you then engage in conversation with people. The way that you make decisions is not just my own. I have to make sure that I'm involving the people that need to be involved, and I'm helping to guide that. A guide by your side. Very rarely do we need to direct it, right? Yeah. Unless safety is involved or something like that. Of course, we're going to direct that. But it really was this kind of shift in thinking, is that we're better together.
Yeah.
We're better when we pull those different lenses. And this is nothing new to some people that are listening to me. No. This is the way I talk all the time. How do we illuminate the areas? I don't have all of the answers.
Yeah.
Who
does?
One might think, as you engage in different positions within an organization, that you have all the answers, but you don't. You might have access to more information, right? Different information, wider lenses. Yeah. But to be able to bring people together to illuminate the areas that I don't have knowledge or I don't have understanding. And so that's a huge shift in thinking from when you're kind of a singleton out there, right? And I am the kind of owner of my own domain. It's not like that in leadership.
Not anymore. So that shift in lens from going from an individual to a team, well, now we have a wrench thrown in the plan again. Now we have AI thrown into the plan. And I like to use the analogy a lot. I did not come up with this. There are plenty of people who did this before me, but the shift in thinking that I'm trying to get people into is this idea of AI as a teammate. So this transitions very well from your discussion about, your decisions now are not just your own and you're part of a team.
Right.
So AI, whether we like it or not, is now a part of that process. It's a part of the process for you. It is possibly a part of the process for everyone who is working with you. It's definitely a part of my process. That is no secret to anyone. So I'm really curious because I always like to hear people's stories here. So what was your first real experience with AI where you said, okay, this is actually useful?
Yeah. So it's actually going to be kind of funny and very basic.
That's okay.
But the very first
They're
time,
usually the best.
the very first time I used it was, okay, so let me back up. So you get a lot of emails. There's a lot of emails from vendors. You go to a conference.
I know that now. Gosh,
right?
Yeah.
There's vendors. You talk with a vendor, and then they share your information with a. Okay, so the email inbox, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so how do I say kindly to a vendor that we already have this solution, and maybe you don't need to email me anymore? And so that was, I'm not kidding, Matt, that was the first time I went out and I was like, okay, ChatGPT, tell me how to say this very kindly to a vendor. And I thought, okay, and I know that this is not something, I don't use this with email, but I did with a vendor. That was the first time, and I was like, okay, no harm in this. How do I respond to this? And I put it in there, and I said, say this very kindly. And it was less than a second. And I was like, that's beautiful. And I sent that off. And I'll tell you, that was the first time that I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it was just a very basic thing. And I don't use it for email. Let me make that clear. I do not use it for email.
I wouldn't judge you if you did.
But that was the first time I thought, how do I say this kindly to a vendor? Because I have at least 12 of these that I need to respond to today. Or I just get to the point where it's like, okay, spam, unsubscribe, just because we already have this solution. There's nothing there. So, but then I started just incrementally starting to expose myself to different ways of using it. And of course, I'm sure like everyone else, you start out just very basic.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the things that it can do for me? Is it able to create an agenda for me? Is it able to think of different ways of doing something, right? It can spark ideas. It can help me to kind of brainstorm some different things, right? And I know that, and I might be getting ahead of us here a little bit, but I always was very, very, and I still am, super duper cautious about what I'm allowing AI access to, what I'm allowing it to explore for me, engage with. But I've also certainly enhanced the way that I use it. I don't use it basic like that anymore.
Right.
I use it to help me really do, like you said, there's an assistant piece. It is now one of my team members that I might bounce ideas off of, or it might help me do some monstrous project where again, I might need, ideas. I might need a spark, but I also might need it to just collect information for me, kind of put this all together. There's no harm in that as long as there's no obviously sensitive or confidential information in there or proprietary information. But how can I use it in that way to save time so that I can focus on more important things that require my creativity or require me to really dig in or analyze something and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I have been, that's the message I've been trying to spread for a while is, getting it to do the mundane parts of your job so that, or help you with the mundane parts of your job so that you can focus on the more important. So you used this recently for this was impressive to me. So someone who uses AI regularly, what you just recently did with this was incredibly impressive. So I'm not going to steal any thunder here. I want you to tell us all about what you just recently used. It was a massive undertaking. So
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that we wanted to do here, and we've wanted to do this for a very long time, just didn't know how to approach it, who was going to lead that, how are we going to do it, what was the frequency of its output, and that was to be able to share with our school districts and our ecosystem, internally with our own teachers, all of the things that we do here at IU8. Because every IU is different, right? And so that's huge. I mean, I would hear this all the time when I would go out and talk with schools, or even internally I would, go up to, I would say, our Park Street office, which has a sunshine over it. I love our Park Street office located in Evansburg.
Yeah.
And I would hear more than once on a weekly basis, like, oh, I didn't know we did that. Or I didn't know that the IU did that. And I thought, that can't be. Internally or externally, like externally meaning school districts. Right? So we needed to pull this information together. Yeah. And so as a leadership team, I created, in all my, very organized, detailed way, I need all of the information across all of our different departments. And I needed to think about that. Like, what was going to be the best way to do that? Because each of them do very different things, right? So we have...
As I've learned,
as we have from, our business office to human resources to our division of school excellence, right? From, what our consultants do to our special education department and all of those services and lovely services and programs that we provide. How can we get them all into one place? And that was to create this comprehensive guide or this digital guide that we could then share. It could be a tool that we use in conversations. All of us could use in conversations. It could be something that members within our organization can use as a conversation starter. There's a lot of times where I'll hear from teachers when they're serving in a school district, and there might be a leader that says, hey, I need information on STEM, in this upcoming training that's happening. And sometimes our teachers are like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Who do I contact? They could actually now start to reference this. This is very brand new. We just put it out here at the beginning of the spring, so there are folks that are still acclimating to it, getting used to it, and how to use it. But what I did was, when I put that out across the organization, I had no idea that I was going to get over 200 entries that came back. And I was asking for some very detailed information. What is the name of the program? What is the name of the training, for example? Give me a short description of that. Then I want to know how often we offer it. Is it complementary to our school districts? Is it a fee for service, or is it hybrid? And who do I call if I'm interested in this program? And so my turnaround was very short. I only had so much time, and I had to release it in March during one of our unit council meetings, which is with our area superintendents. And it was like, that was the drop dead date. Had to have it printed, ready to go, digital version, everything. And I thought... Insert pressure. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of stress with that. And although it was fantastic, and even at that, whenever I first looked at it, took it back to leadership, and I said, here's where we are. Like, everyone, I think, kind of was like, wow. Like, we have a lot that we... Yes, we do. We've never collected it together in this way. And it was very, very exciting. And you know what else started happening from that? I'm going to step away from EI for 1 second. What was really exciting about that is it started to cultivate some conversations internally of how could we internally across different departments begin to work together more efficiently and effectively. Or it was sparking like, hey, this might be a service that we might even be able to explore with schools. Like, let's schedule some conversations to say, this is a service that we've never offered before, but now when I look across this guide in this way, this might be something that might have some teeth in it that schools might be interested in. Absolutely. And so not only did we create this guide, but it really stimulated internal synergy and conversation among people. Love the word synergy. Synergy. And I was like, oh my, this did much more than what we had set out and anticipated that it would be. Yeah. So Back to AI. I had to birdwalk for a second
okay.
just to say that because it was so exciting.
Yeah.
But back to AI, I had put it in to AI and I said, and there was nothing in there that wasn't directory information.
Correct.
We have it.
Correct.
It was just never collected in this way. So there was nothing I was sharing that couldn't be shared, that was proprietary, that
Right.
was confidential. So I put it in there. I gave it a frame. I always put a framework around it, put a little bow on it and say, I need it in this way. And the first thing that it produced for me, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's going to be able to do this for me because there's no way. I had it going into an Excel sheet. I needed to take it from an Excel sheet and put it into this beautiful readable guide for us to be able to look through.
And I know you and I sat down, we were
did.
trying to mess with Canva and the
Yes.
bulk create. And
Yes.
so we were like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. And then you veered away from me and then started to use this. I believe it was Claude, right?
It was Claude.
Claude helped you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was Claude.
We are big Claude fans here, so
like
that's
Claude.
okay. I am a huge Claude fan. I think a
I
lot of the a lot of the world is coming around to Claude as well
Yes.
right now. So
Yes.
you put it in, and the first result, and you I like how you laid the groundwork there because that's something I'm trying to get across to people too. You didn't want to put in just like take this information and do this. You gave it a whole framework
I
of
did.
like this is the purpose that we're doing. This is what we have to do this for, and you gave it a story.
I did.
And so that's a good way to frame AI when you're talking to it. Give it the story, the picture of what you're trying to
Right.
do with whatever task you're trying to complete.
Right.
And so you were blown away by the first result.
I was. And then as I started going through it, I thought, okay, I don't like how this is organized. So I started telling it how I wanted it to be organized in the way that I thought at the time made sense. Now, looking back, of course, we learn and we're like, oh, we could probably organize this in a different way.
Sure.
So we'll have an opportunity to do that when we release our next version of it in the fall.
I love it.
And we will do that now from now on. Every, fall, spring, we'll probably put out a new edition of our comprehensive guide of IU8 programs and services.
And I think it's nice too because
Yeah.
it keeps fresh.
Yes.
It's like a restaurant, right? You have
Right.
to update your menu items
Right.
seasonally, right? Like, oh, it's summer, I can get strawberries now. Let's do some more with that. Or oh, it's fall, I can get squash now. Let's do more with that. So,
Right.
like a restaurant, you have to update your menu items, right?
Right.
And I think originally wasn't this like called like the menu of services?
It was the
I think
menu
it was
of services. And then we're
I
like,
think initially it was
kinda
the
sounds
menu.
like a restaurant. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if we really like that. I think there were, some of us on leadership that were like, it just doesn't really sound right.
Yeah.
And
We
so
have an educational menu here.
yes, yes, and it is a menu, but
Yeah.
it made more sense to say this is a comprehensive guide
Right.
of all of the things that we're able to offer here and what might be possible. So when I went back in, I will tell you, I can't even tell you how many iterations there were of this document. But once I got it to, at first it was like, okay, there's no pictures on these pages. It's like 50 some pages of just, here's the service, here's the description. And so I asked it to layer in some boxes for me so that I could put in pictures from across our organization that would make sense to that part of the comprehensive guide, right?
Yes.
So if there was training, I think I put in a picture of our dose team, right?
Yep.
And how can I make this a little bit more user-friendly and pleasing to the eye, if you will? And so, but then I layered in, I said, take our directory information and layer this in. This is, Matt offers AI. Here's his contact information. Here's his email. And is that a hybrid option? I defined that at the very beginning. What does complementary mean? What's hybrid? What's fee for service? And there it was. Voila. And that is what would have taken me time or taken members of my team time to do, that it really just, I knew it could be done by AI and there was no harm in that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right.
So I taught it what to do. And now in the fall, because we've been collecting entries over time now, like I
Yep.
said, we had those moments of brilliance
Yes.
where we're like, oh, you know what, this is a service now that we can offer. It's going to be in our fall version, and
Yeah.
I can plug it into, it's going right now into that Excel sheet. And when I tell Claude, I need you to add these into these sections, it's going to be able to do that.
Correct.
And so
Yeah.
there it is.
And another key lesson that I try to teach in my trainings as well that you did seemingly on your own
Yeah.
was iteration.
Yes, incrementalism.
So
iteration.
the whole idea behind AI is that the more you iterate with it, the more you say, oh, I don't like that way, or I don't like that font, or I don't like that color, things like that, right? The more you do that, the better your results will be, because you're fine tuning. And to be quite honest with you, I'm sure now in a leadership, you can attest to this as well. That's what you do when you're working with someone who's new.
Oh, sure.
Or that's what you do when you're working with a coworker, is they're doing a task and you're like, oh, I think we should do more of this, or I think we should add more of that. And they go, oh, well, maybe we should do more of this. And you're going back and forth. And then you end up with something that is true, that is great.
Yeah.
That is great. And you met your deadline.
I did.
With more than enough time to spare. And we were all blown away too. And you can find it on the IU8 website.
Yes.
So that actually transitions really well into the next part of our conversation. You made the conscious decision. I have a time crunch. I'm under some pressure. I need to get this done. And I think how the conversation started between us was, can AI do that? And
right.
that's a great, special question for me. Okay. So when I came in here, we started the whole curve framework. Okay. And the first part of the curve framework, we've been doing all these episodes going through the curve framework. So if you don't know by now, that's your fault. But
we know the curve.
Yeah, but can AI do this, right? So that's the curiosity part. You were curious.
It was curious.
Yes.
It's the C in the curve.
Exactly.
Right?
Can AI do this? And I was like, I don't know. And this is the wonderful part. And people in my trainings, they're like shocked when I say, I don't know. And it's like, but I don't. I said, how you are looking at using AI is completely different from how I look at it.
Yeah.
And so I love seeing other people's ideas on what they think that AI can or can't do.
Yeah.
And it creates new ones for me. That spark you were talking about, right? So it creates new ones for me. So you made this decision to use AI to help you create this. I'm curious, at any point in there, did you step back and think to yourself, I feel kind of guilty? Or I hear this a lot, that people, when they use AI to complete something, they feel like they cheated. They feel like they took a shortcut. So did you ever feel that way?
I did at first. And it goes back to, the C for curiosity. I was curious to see if it was going to be able to do what I wanted to do, and I doubted it. I think you were in my office when we were both like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's going to be able to do this.
Big ask. Yeah, it was a big ask.
There was a certain way that we wanted it to look. We kind of had this vision of how we wanted it to look. I don't know if it's going to be able to do that. And so, very early on. But then once I saw what it was producing, and knowing that I was not going to be able to dedicate the time to be able to do that work, and I knew that there was no harm in it. Again, it goes back to the, some of the pieces that are in the curve, right? Some of the things that we acknowledge, or some of the foundational principles was there any kind of safety concerns? Were there any privacy concerns? There weren't. So I had to tell myself, this is okay.
This is okay.
It's okay. And it's going to be much more beautiful than what you probably would have created yourself, Jen. And so I'll save my Fridays and my weekends, because that's probably where it would have happened.
Right.
And knowing that I was able to go to a ball game instead and actually protect that boundary and spend time with family. Yeah. It very quickly dissipated. That feeling, it dissipated. So
absolutely.
But I'm very pleased, and I think that others within, and those that have received it are pleased with it. It was something that was an ask for a long time.
Yeah.
And we were able to do that. And now we're gonna be able to enhance that. We're gonna be able to add stories to it. We're gonna be able to add data. We use Salesforce right now.
Yep.
As you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be able to draw down graphs and information. We might even be able to, embed that in certain parts, like in the business section of kind of what we're doing, where we're going, what some of our goals are. And so it's going to be able to enhance it a good bit.
Absolutely. And so the reason I was kind of trying to get at here and this is the big part that we talked about, would probably be the most helpful for everyone listening, whether that be admins, whether that be teachers, how do you make the decision of what work is, valuable that you don't want to offload to AI, or work that you think AI can have this?
Well, definitely, just right off the top of my head, I would never enter in any identifiable information, right, about any of our programs, services, students, nothing like that. That's not where it belongs.
Right.
If there's any sort of analysis that needs to be done, then that is work that can be done across our teams, or like I said, again, gathering those dots together, connecting those dots. That's where that important analysis happens. I would never offload to AI to solve any of our problems that we might have identified, or challenges, right? Now, definitely utilize it to spark, to prototype something, to help me brainstorm. I've even used AI to poke holes in what I've analyzed.
Oh, I love that.
I ask it to ask me questions like, what am I missing here? Or can you make this more clear to my audience? Here's my audience, make this more clear. Or is this clear enough? Or what questions should I be asking myself? Interrogate me.
I fully agree. So we've layered in the discussion of values, right? So you have to sit down, and I always try to tell, like a colleague of mine on LinkedIn, her name's Dr. Saba Kidwai, but what she likes to say is, before you use AI, prompt the human before the machine. So you have to sit down and really go through, what is your system? What is your values of the work you do? What do you view as the most valuable work you do? Where is your time most spent? Where is your time most drained from you? And if you sit down and actually do this big reflection before you get into AI, what you actually create for yourself and your AI system, that you create a system that your AI now knows your values, knows how you work, knows what you do. So when you go to use it, all those things are already in place. And you did that. And so that was the cool part of your story, was that you added in all the things. I didn't prompt you. I mean, you added in all the parts that you needed to do. Give it the context, give it the background. You gave it the very clear task that it was doing and how you wanted it to look, right? And you set up all of that ahead of time. And then you iterate it. That's the part that most people miss. The number one thing I heard at the beginning was people would say, I asked it to do this thing and it was terrible. It's like, well, what's the point? Well, did you tell it that you didn't like it? And they all go, what do you mean?
Right.
I'm like, well, you say I didn't like XYZ about this. I didn't know you could do that. So me coming into the IU, part of the goal was the bigger view, right? Helping the schools in our region. But I made a pitch pretty early on, and I don't think it was just me. I think this was already kind of in the thought process. It's going to be really interesting to try to sell the message of, let me help you with your policy and guidance, when we ourselves at the IU do not have AI policy and guidance. So we started the process. We did. Not too long ago. We collected in the supervisors of each of the departments, as you said, lots of different things, right? Absolutely. Lots of stakeholders. And so we tried to get in a different way. So this was my big ask. Of course, I used AI to help me plan this and put this together. But the big ask was we're asked so many times, can you fill out a survey? Can you fill out this thing? We did something a little different. It was still a survey, but we wanted to frame it as conversations. Right. So we gave talking points to the supervisors and said, use these in just a informal conversation. There is no judgment here. We're just trying to see, are the people in your department using AI? Right. What are they using it for? Where do they not feel comfortable? That's actually the most valuable information. Or where do they not want to use AI? Right. So we started this process of putting this information together, and we got a lot of really interesting responses. There's a lot of fear around AI.
There is.
One of my favorites that I've heard so far in the comments is, why would I learn to use a thing that could eventually replace me? Or why should I put so much effort into using this thing that, someone may look at and be like, oh, this will replace me. And that is a fear like writ large. I mean, that is every industry, everywhere, worldwide right now. So as a leader, okay, I don't know, and I could be wrong, but I always feel like education is kind of in its own bucket, and I've heard all the arguments, and I'm sure you have too. Education is a deeply human experience. Mm-hmm. And if you take the human out of the education experience, is it education anymore?
There's no experience.
There is no experience, right? And so with that, here in your role now as a leader, so how are you kind of handling this idea? If you want the staff, to feel comfortable using AI in their work, like what does making that happen look like?
Yeah.
Like, so you're already doing one part, which I argue is important, is modeling appropriate use. So what else do you think falls under there?
So there's a few things, and you've alluded to some of those. First, we did develop a team. We developed a team of various stakeholders, and that will likely grow. The work is always going to be there because AI, as we sit here in this moment, right, is rapidly changing as
it's probably
we know
being
it.
Updated right now on my computer.
Right, exactly. And so we have to be able to create space and time to be able to have those really important conversations. And when you're talking about values and beliefs and what is our philosophy and where do we stand on this and what is our moral responsibility to this, those are things that I don't want, no offense, I don't want AI to tell me that. I need to hear from the human and from those various stakeholder groups, what does that mean to us? Let's define that together. What does it mean to IU8? What does it mean to the team of OTs, PTs, and CODAs? What does it mean to the training and technical assistance team, for example? And so when we define that, then it hopefully will be able to give us an overall organizational definement of what those things are. Next is where, and again, you've already described it, we needed to find the baseline because there were some intentional times that we've created spaces for learning around AI, but we never really had the opportunity yet, or maybe from fear, weren't quite sure where to start with regard to what kind of framing do we need to put around this? How are we going to communicate that across the organization? How are we going to create safe spaces for exploration? Or where do we allow agency to happen, right? And how are we communicating that? And so I think that's kind of where we are right now. We've collected some of that baseline information. And along the way, we are providing learning opportunities. You were one of those folks that we brought in last year. I was tasked with our IU8 Professional Learning Institute, which is always the kickoff of our school year, where we have 2 days set aside for intense professional learning, opportunities for people to come back together, to connect, to build relationships, and have some of these really great conversations. We had you as a session. Right? And so it was, here are some things that you can explore. And so we created that environment. We created the conditions for that to happen, right?
Super important.
So we need to be able to continue that more intentionally of how are we going to allow that to happen? How are we going to resource our members of our organization? How are we going to resource them, whether you're the business manager to a teacher, a paraprofessional in a classroom, to we don't know, our facilities and our facilities management might have opportunities to use it. We need to be thinking about all of those areas, and that is, I think, an area, as like in the position that I'm in, is that I need to think about all of those areas. I have to be able to expand that stakeholder group, which you've done very nicely. You've done a great job in leading us through those conversations. To be able to get to where we need to go as an organization so that we can be a good model, so that we can say, we've walked through this process, we're here with you when a school wants to walk through that process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's okay. We always need to come from our experiences.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so we're trying to create some of those opportunities now safely, exercising, creating that space and time, the conditions for them to be able to do that, resourcing them with that, and really going from there.
I think that you hit the big one, space and time.
Yes.
Right? And I know that is something that is a very elusive thing for teachers and for school districts, right? Space and time.
Space and time.
We have some schools that are doing some creative things in our area to create more space and time. I was dumbfounded when I found out that one of our school districts, they let their students and teachers off on a half day every single Friday. And that second half of the day is planning time, if they want to sneak in a professional development.
Learning communities.
And I'm sorry, that
networking.
to me, that seems like an incredibly valuable thing, because what that, and now, especially from my perspective now, what that opens up is the opportunity for what I think all admins would like, which is ongoing professional development, not the one and dones. And if you have this space that's always in your calendar,
Yes.
in addition to the other, Act 80 in-service days that you already have, I mean, you are opening the door for so many opportunities there for exploration, right? And so things like that, right? Outside the box thinking.
Sure. Absolutely.
Let's give them a half a day to do stuff.
Right. And it allows for conversation, right?
It does. It does.
If I think about, I've also used this analogy of a T model, right? If I bring in a speaker that's going to talk about AI, right, that's well and good. If there's going to be opportunities for us to then be able to digest that and to be able to say, what does this mean to my work? How can I start to use it in my work? And then I'm creating space for us to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, very much like what you and I did when we were working through this comprehensive guide. And so the T model, meaning I need to be able to go deep on that. If I just have these tiny little cuts, I'm only going to stay at a surface level with something, right? So with AI, if that's the direction your school wants to go, is you want to stay at a surface level, then maybe those things will work for you. Where you bring in a speaker, or you might have a couple breakout sessions and things like that where you're talking about it. But for us, we've identified that we need to go deeper with that. We have a responsibility to our organization that we have to bring meaning to it. We have to define it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to inject that myself. I'm not going to be able to inject into the organization and say, this is what it needs to be, without engaging in conversation. First of all, that's not the way that I lead. And second of all, in this particular situation, I feel like that's vitally important because, again, I don't have the lens anymore from a classroom. I can certainly go in and observe, but I can't be that teacher. I can't be that paraprofessional or that related service provider to say, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I have to be able to hear it from them to say, okay, then let's step out of this and let's try something different. So allowing that exercise to happen and for us to be able to, this is going to sound really cliche, but fail forward.
Yes.
We have to be able to fail forward and be able to identify what's going to work really well for us and what isn't.
Yeah, and I think you gave the model. I mean, that's the model.
That's it.
It's not going to be the same for every organization. Okay, so building that space and time, I think that's probably the big message
Takeaway.
to get across here. Build that space and time, and I think you've also done a good job of this here. You and Dr. Butler both have done a good job of this, saying, let's explore the thing.
Yep.
Try it out. See how it works. Our little group is piloting a little Claude, in teams sort of deal here. So a little, mini enterprise version of Claude, just to see, is it going to be useful for our team? So we've had this wonderful, wonderful conversation. We're going to bring it to a close here, and we're going to kind of think about what's next, what becomes possible now with AI. We've talked you and your leadership role, how you have used it, how you decide what to use it for, which just that alone is the most valuable piece of this, right? More leaders, more people need to be willing to come forward with, I'm using it to do this. I learned that it's terrible at doing this. I learned that it's really good at doing this. Creating a space where we can share with each other, leadership, employees, staff, students, hopefully, ideally, we can all sit and talk and say, I tried this thing and it didn't work. It didn't go well. And we need to share that so we can learn with it, right? One of my big things in my room was there is no learning without mistakes. Okay. Norms.
I like
that was one of my norms. So what becomes possible for the IU8 as an organization if we actually take AI seriously as a tool for reimagining our work, not just getting our work done faster? What do you imagine is possible now? Like, how could we reimagine what we do now that we have something? Like, once our departments get comfortable with AI, like, what's possible?
Well, I think that, with that permission to be able to utilize AI, and we have identified in what ways that we can, and we practice with some of that, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Such a great answer.
But I think, and I think it's okay to say I don't know, but I do know that it's going to provide us the opportunity to be more creative, to be thinking more outside of a way of doing something the way that we've always done it, that we could now potentially be doing it differently. And expanding upon that. And I don't know what that is, right? I can tell you what happened when we were going through the comprehensive guide. It made us think, just going through that process, it really sparked within us to think differently about the programs and services that we offer. It was a byproduct of that process, not something I ever thought was going to come out of that, but it has. And there are a number of these different services that we are now talking about exploring and developing business plans and things like that around, as we should. Because as an organization, an intermediate unit, we have to be entrepreneurial. So that is a space that we need to be able to, as an organization, be able to have permission to fail forward, to make the mistakes, like you said. We have to be able to do that. And so I think when we start to use AI, or continue to use and refine the way that we use AI moving forward, is that we are going to be able to prototype different things. We are going to be able to have that AI agent, or however we're going to use it, right? To be able to interrogate, question us, be able to help us think more broadly, more deeply about something, or look at something in very different ways. I think that that's where creativity, AI can help us to be able to do that, to be able to think of something that maybe we wouldn't have sparked, or we didn't think that was possible. And so I think that's where, of course, we'll always be, there will always be things that can replace, right?
Right.
Specifically the way I did the comprehensive guide. I would have done that work myself. I would have typed it out. I probably would have had, my assistant help me with that, not my AI assistant. My assistant, Shelby, helped me with that.
Yeah.
And she did. There was still a space for her that I needed her to be able to look at that, and for me to look at that. And so I think that's where that opportunity still lies and is still to be written.
I love that.
It's going to continue to evolve, Matt. We know this.
Yeah.
You know this as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
That it is going to take us in places we never thought it was going to be able to take us, as long as we're responsible with it, as long as we keep our grounding in the moral and ethical view of how we should be engaging with it, how we should be interacting with it, and what we use from it, and what we give it.
Yeah.
And all of those things.
Yeah. No. Again, and to me, that was part of the whole purpose of me coming in here and trying to institute the curve framework.
Yes.
Just a way of thinking,
yes,
a mindset. Okay. I argue all the time that AI is not a technical skill. AI is a behavior. It is a mindset shift. That's all it is. So what is one thing that you wish every teacher or educator in our region knew about how leaders should be thinking about this whole AI thing? So you're the leader. We know that you are very forward facing. You are very open about your AI use. We talk about it regularly. It's shared. Everybody shares how they're using it or not using it. They share their fails. So what's important for the leaders, for the teachers to know?
So I think teachers, related service providers, paraprofessionals, they all need to be thinking and understanding. Leaders are trying to figure out how to create the space and time and conditions for that to happen, right? Also understand that there is an element of fear that we all have. We all have it. I have it. You have it, I'm sure, to a certain point, just like teachers have it. There are leaders that have it too. They're not quite sure what is, they might not be sure what's possible. They're not quite sure where to start, and that's okay. But know that for the most part, if I think across the region, there are some schools that have really taken off with AI. They have guidance. They have created frameworks, multiple professional learning opportunities. They have professional learning communities around it right now, where there are teachers that are engaging in the conversations, very much of like what we've described here today, of what that kind of utopia would look like, right?
Right.
But then there are also other schools that are just stepping out into this world right now, and that's okay. And that's okay. I mean, we are, to a point, as an organization, trying to gather baseline information. We're trying to develop what that learning model is going to look like. How will we create those conditions and spaces for that learning to happen? How do we create permission for them to have agency, right? And where can that live? How do we, because as an organization, we are very different than a school campus, right? Because we're across 3,500 square miles.
Right.
And we're in all of our 35 school districts. We're in the non-public schools. We're in early childhood environments. We're in home environments. We're all over the place.
Right.
And so being very intentional with that is something that requires us to think differently about that schedule and about what happens on those learning days. We talk about this not just, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but across the world. There are mandates and regulations that will crowd in on those in-service days, right?
Yep.
And we know that those are things that absolutely have to happen. They're mandated, right? And so where do we become creative with allowing those spaces to happen? Very, very early on as a supervisor, I always talked about flipping staff meetings, right? Staff meetings. What are we going to do in the staff meeting? What are we doing in the staff meeting? Well, I always say, if there's something that can be sent in an email, please do that. Don't bring it to a staff meeting and now we're going to spend an hour talking about something I could have sent in an email because it was just information sharing, right? And so how can we flip that meeting, or what I call touch points, how can we flip that touch point to be something that is a learning activity?
Right.
So I can ask one question, or I can provide Claude, for example, and say, everybody's going to log into Claude, and here's what I want you to practice with this prompt, for example. And then we're going to come back together and we're going to talk about something. That's just a very basic right approach. But are there spaces that we wouldn't otherwise think about that we could be able to offer up as space and time for us to be able to have that element of practice and exercise, right?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head.
Doesn't have to be at 80 days. Doesn't have to be in service. It can be done in different ways.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So wonderful. And first of all, thank you so much for spending this time. I know putting both of us with a podcast mic was a dangerous decision because you and I both are talkers. But as we've stated many times during this session, incredibly valuable.
Yes.
I think it's so, for me, and I'll just give this, you take your own takeaway, but this is my takeaway. Decide, make a value system for yourself, right? What do I want it to do? What do I never want it to do? Mm-hmm. What am I flexible, malleable on, right? What can adjust later? And getting creative with that use of time, right? And so I think that is the most important takeaway for our leaders, okay? Get creative with that time that you have, because I know it is dwindling. It's time to get creative. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you joining us. One thing I always like to say, and love to hear your thoughts on this, I always end the episode with this little phrase, is that AI is the engine and you are the engineer. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been the Curve Ahead podcast. I am your host, Matt Karabinos, and my guest today was Dr. Jennifer Anderson, our Assistant Executive Director of the Appalachia Intermediate Unit 8. And we will see you around the next